A lot of football news to discuss today here on the Keny and JT show locally and down the road a little bit in Columbus with the Buckeyes as they are getting ready to play Notre Dame for the national championship 1 week from today in Atlanta. And the other big news locally is McKinley tonight will announce at a special Canton City School Board meeting the approval, we're expecting, of their new head football coach, Renard Renzi Parnell, going to be named the new head football coach at McKinley. So like we said, a lot to talk about locally and with the Buckeyes. And who better to do it with than a Bulldog two-time state champion and an Ohio State national champion, the one, the only Mike Doss joining us here on the Keny and JT show today. Mike, Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year. It's been a while, gentlemen. It's been a while.
It has, Mike, and I appreciate you getting back to me so quickly today because, like I said, these are two hot topics, as you can imagine, locally and throughout the state. Let's start with your alma mater here in Stark County, the McKinley Bulldogs. You won 2 state titles there, so it means a lot to you. And today we're finding out at 6 o'clock tonight that Renzi Parnell from Akron-Hoban is going to be named the new head football coach at McKinley. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the opportunity for Coach Parnell. I think he is a admiral, a coach who did a hell of a job at Hoban under Coach Tyrell and understands the atmosphere there in Canton. He coached at a high level, multiple state championships. Top defenses. He's probably the candidate from Hoban that no one thought would get the job, but he's definitely talented enough and has been in coaching a very long time and has earned the right to be the head coach at Canton McKinley.
Mike, when I was in high school, we went through a coaching change kind of similar to this, but they bring in some guy that we'd never heard of, and a guy that goes on to win a state championship. You did it at the high school level, you did it at the college level. As a player, as an All-American player, what's it like going through a coaching change as the player?
Well, I think, the one thing is constant is change. I think Antonio, he did a great job over his tenure, keeping the city involved, keeping the local community involved, and then, ultimately, decided to move on for his own personal reasons. But I think that from the sense of the change, everyone has to just adapt to a new philosophy. Everyone has to adapt to just a different thought process. These young kids, they've seen a lot, in their lifetime just far, and it's just another thing where they'll just have to, learn a new system, learn a new way of how to attack, winning. And I think, Coach Parnell is going to come in with a business, I would call it a business plan of how he wants, Canton McKinley to look, and he's going to do everything possible to try to get that done, with hiring the right staff, hiring, some of the staff that's currently there, hiring talent, that some people may not have heard of. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot. It won't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a night. The expectations at Canton McKinley are always high, as we know. But I think, he comes in with a personality that he wants to, get these young men to be great young men and great people first. Great students in the classroom second, and then most importantly, go on the football field and try to get some wins.
Mike, from the standpoint of him coaching, we're talking about Renzi Parnell, who will be announced as the new head football coach at McKinley, him coaching at Hoban, he's played Maslin 5 times as the defensive coordinator and went 3-2 in those 5 games, right? And a couple of them were for state championships. How much of a factor do you think that was in hiring him? Because he's gone up against Maslin and has some history in what is the greatest rivalry in high school football.
I think that you definitely have to bring that into account. I think what's important is that he, along with those games against Maslin, he's coached in high-quality, football games against talent across the country. I know Hoban's played teams in New Jersey, teams out of California. They traveled. They played in neutral field stadiums, and from that perspective, Canton McKinley is to me probably the best public high school job in the state of Ohio, with the facilities, with the opportunity there to play at the Hall of Field Stadium every week. I think what's good for him to have that experience against that team out west, that definitely helps, and it gives you a sense of, how his defense plays and how they will attack, Massillon when they play him. But I think for him, the right opportunity came open, a great job in Canton, McKinley. I mean, he was in the private sector, right? You would say Hogan's a private school, but,
Yep.
Now at Canton, McKinley, it's a public school. He's an Akron guy who, grew up in the inner city. He can connect to these kids. He knows their experiences, and he also knows what it's like, just with turnover. At Hogan, they get some of the best talent in the state that comes in and out of there, and he continues to be successful every year. So I think it's going to be challenging. It's not going to be an overnight success, but I think he has the stomach and the tenacity and the wherewithal that, he can, build a great program with the talent and the community behind him.
Kenny, Mike Doss is the only person that I know that it's won on every level. High school, college, and pro, champion at every level. And Mike, what I think of is tradition, old school style, right? And when I played, it was Moeller. When you played, it was Ignatius. Now Hoban. What tradition does Hoban have that makes them such a power in football?
What they have is competitive nature. They have a competitiveness and a competitive nature tradition of wanting to win. The good thing that you always know about Hoban is, they have depth, right? They would have the most talented people, talented guys at each position, and then they lose a guy or two, and then next you know they reload, right? So the talent is always there at Hoban. I think the challenge, for Coach Parnell and Stark County would be, does Kansas City schools, go to open enrollment? These are things that you don't know, that helps change, but the talent in Stark County is there. Can you keep it all in Canton, McKinley? We lose a lot of kids going to Jackson, going to Massillon, going to Perry because they didn't feel that they had a chance. And what I call the microwave, the microwave time where everyone thinks their kid as a freshman is going to be a Mike Doss or a Jamar Martin, and they want their kids to play as freshmen and sophomores. Well, these kids stand the test of time of being developed, and by the time they're potentially, the end of their sophomore year or going into their junior year, now they've earned the starting spot where they stay around to help build the program like it was back in my day. I think the microwave, everyone wants that instant gratification. The social media, you can look at Instagram and get a dopamine high because, it instantly pops up. But, when you're being developed in a program like Hoban, they've been successful over the last 2 decades. But that comes from internal development, each player sticking to the course, fighting, to get better and competing. And then that ultimately it's taught from the seniors down to the freshmen. And then when it's your turn, now it's your turn to go execute.
You know what? I want to give you credit for mentioning Jamar Martin, who never gets enough credit on this program. Usually everybody wants to talk, Kenny Peterson, because he got a cake store. We like to talk about the people that were great at McKinley. And Mike Doss, you're one of the greatest of all time. You mentioned also facilities. We might have the best facilities in the country right now at Canton McKinley. Kansas City Schools done a fantastic job. But if you're a young guy like Renzi Parnell, and I say young because I'm older than the mountains, but what makes this job attractive to a young guy like that?
I think what makes it attractive, is it's the challenge, right? It's the challenge, to go and prove, that you can take on the responsibility of a program like, Canton McKinley. I think too, it was very hard probably in the candidate search, to find the right fit and someone, a coach who of quality without it, being blown out of proportion or so high quality, you would have to go to a Cincinnati Moeller's or a St. Ignatius. I think what's good is, Coach Parnell is proven statistically in his stats of what his team and his defenses have done, but now he has the personal challenge to go out and prove that I can lead an organization. I can go, corral a community. I can keep these kids motivated, here in the city. I can get kids who don't actually want to play football to play football and keep the guys from not going to other schools. So it's going to be, I think, a good, fun challenge for him. I know he lives locally there in the area, from what I know. And I think, being able to be close to home, have the family support, of his wife and kids and whatnot. And I think the most important part is he's an African American who grew up in the inner city. He's known about McKinley. He played against McKinley. Heard about McKinley when he was coming up, and to have that allure and that attraction in Stark County to say, hey, my first head coaching job is at one of the most prestigious high schools in the country, and I get a chance to lead them. What an opportunity. I mean, I told my dad always to ask me why I did not get in coaching. I said in 2008 when I retired, if I had got the call, maybe I would have been the McKinley coach. But I had no experience. I had never coached. You know what I mean? And then I have 3 girls. So now at this point, my dad has 3 grandbabies, and we don't worry about football anymore.
We're happy to have with us Mike Doss, state champion twice at McKinley, national champion with the Buckeyes, Super Bowl champion with the Colts, and talking about what will officially be announced tonight at the school board meeting. Renard Renzi Parnell as the new head football coach for McKinley. So great insight from you on that. Now let's change gears to that other team that is so near and dear to your heart, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And we just had a caller on the show not too long ago, and we were discussing the run to this national championship game. And if they do win it all, Mike Doss, they will have defeated Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame to win it all. Is that arguably the most impressive run to a national championship, should it happen, for Ryan Day beating those teams in consecutive games?
Absolutely. I think it's never been done before. This is setting a precedent. I mean, it's the first of its kind. And to have a run where you eventually, beat, I want to say, 6 top 5 opponents in the country, based off their ranking throughout the season, that would be a phenomenal story to, I would say, cement his career as one of the, greatest coaches in Ohio State history. If we really look down to the brass tacks, Urban Meyer only has 1 national championship at Ohio State. Jim Tressel only has 1 national championship at Ohio State. So for Coach Day, if he can accomplish this, triumph on Monday, it will put him right in the same allure of being one of the, greatest coaches in Ohio State history, especially in an era with name, image, likeness, in an era of collective where guys are now getting compensated for their talents. And for him to manage, the team and the roster and all these things, and to be the first college playoff of 12 teams, it would be a phenomenal story that he can always, talk about, and it'll always be attached to his career.
We're always making comparisons, whether it was your teams in the late 90s to the 81 team. You both won state championships at Camp McKinley. And everybody says, my team was better than that team. And then you move along, and there's comparisons. And all the time you look at teams like the 02 Ohio State Buckeyes and the 24 Ohio State Buckeyes. Certain guys came back. Certain guys scheduled or circled the calendar and says, we're going to win it at all costs. And it's championship or bust. But you know what the comparisons don't end with? The teams. And if I had $1 for everybody that's told me number 2 in the scarlet and gray reminds me of Mike Doss, tell me about Caleb Downs. I mean, every time I turn around, somebody's going, that dude looks like Mike Doss.
Man, Caleb Downs, what can you say? He's a very athletic, physical guy. He's smart. To be just a true sophomore, his knowledge of the game is really high, right? His football IQ is very high. I think, for me, what I really like about his role in this defense is that he has a lot of freedom. And then once he makes a decision, you can see it, right? He's shot out of the cannon. And I would say that's something that he reminds me of myself, is that once I made my decision, I was gone and I was going to try to go make a play. I would say I'm probably a little more physical than him, but that's probably because of the era, of football that I played in. We would, bang and knock guys out. Today, if I was in this era, I wouldn't make it to the second quarter, maybe the second half, because every time I hit somebody, it would be called targeting. So, I think he's done a great job, understanding the rules of today's game and being able to be successful. But, his skill set and the talent around him, he can't do it all by himself. He has a lot of talent around him, just as I did in my 4 years there here in Columbus. And he's doing everything that he can as a leader of the secondary and as a leader on that team to make sure that defense is continuing to be the number one defense in college football, the number one scoring defense, and they have the number one passing defense. So, with all that being said, it's going to be a challenge for Notre Dame on Monday night, and they have the number two, defense in the country right now. So it's going to be a defensive game. I think I personally would take the spread out. We're 9.5-point favorites, and I think it's going to be a tough grind, slow pace. Grind the gears out. 10, 12, 13 play drives if you want to score, and then defensively, a bend but don't break. Hey, you might get down to the red zone, but can you actually score a touchdown? We may hold you to a field goal. So, Notre Dame is well coached. Marcus Freeman, was part of the team that I was a part of there in 2008 when I was kind of out of football, hoping to stay in, and I eventually got signed with the Bengals. But Marcus was the leader on that 2008 team, and I love his personality. I love everything that he embodies, as a coach, as a former Buckeye. But, his skill set and how he motivates, man, is second to none. If you really listen to him in some of his, interviews, I mean, he speaks exactly in the remnants of a Jim Tressel. It's all about the team. There's no I in team. It's a collective, and he's done a great job making sure that Notre Dame, believes that they're in the fight. I mean, to upset a Georgia team that did not have their starting quarterback, Carson Beck, I give them that, but they also had a month to prepare. And the way that they were able to handle that Georgia team, you have to know that they're going to come in to Atlanta on Monday well prepared and ready to give Ohio State all that they can handle.
Kenny, certain plays are ingrained in your brain for the rest of your life. What we saw Jack Sawyer do is going to be one of those plays. Mike Doss against St. Ignatius in high school. Mike, when you hit that tight end, A, who is that kid? Did he ever amount to anything, or did you end his football career?
Great question. That was my freshman year. It was Dan O'Leary's little brother that I hit in a freshman game. And he never played football again. Dan O'Leary did make it. He went to Notre Dame, and then he ended up going to the NFL. And then the St. Ignatius Hail Mary there at Kent, where I tackled a guy at the 1 yard line. I think he might be selling insurance or something, But at the end of the day, man, that Jack Sawyer play to me goes down and one of the Lord willing, that the Buckeyes take care of business on Monday night. After that game, that Jack Sawyer play will be forever immortalized as one of the top 5 plays in Buckeye football history, just from the fact of the timing, the moment, and to secure the victory after what we had saw over a month ago, losing to that team up north, seeing all the actions and the reaction, him standing up as a Columbus native, a Buckeye for 4 years, that team up north would not plant their flag on our field. And I think that brought the team a lot closer, and it showed his leadership. It might have been a little bit of chaotic, but as we see since that moment, Jack has played with a tenacity and a leadership to prove that, what he was doing was fighting, Ohio against the world as they, continue to promote in their marketing. But Jack Sawyer play against Texas, against his former roommate, will forever be immortalized. It'll be up there with the Maurice Correct strip, Sean Taylor. Right. It'll be up there with, the Keith Byers running with one shoe. It'll be up there, with plays that, Ezekiel Elliott, 85 yards through the heart of the South. So, I mean, that play will be forever immortalized, and Jack will, at some point, he could be the mayor of Columbus if he wants to.
Oh, that's great stuff, man. Getting goosebumps as you're rattling off those names of those plays that have stood out in Ohio State history. You mentioned that team up north losing that game, but since then, completely different team. What do you think changed at that point? Because I'll be honest with you, Mike, I didn't think they had a chance to win the national championship after losing at home as a 23-point favorite to that team up north, 13-10. What do you think has changed to put them on this trajectory of being national champs, one win away from it?
I think what it did, it opened their eyes to you have to live in the moment. I think, it opened their eyes that everything is earned and not given. And we thought about this. If this was last year, where it was just the 14 playoff, Ohio State would have never made the conversation. If this was, 20 years ago, where, our team, we had to run the table and be undefeated to even have a chance to play against the Hurricanes in the BCS era, right? So with the 12-team playoff, it gave us a sense of hope that we believe that we were still one of the top 12 teams in the country. I think the energy of what Jack showed post-game, and I've also heard there were some stories of the locker room post-game of just how guys were so frustrated. They were upset. They didn't feel like they played their best game. They knew that they let alone let themselves down, right? And to, and want to leave their legacy. And to be honest, let's think of Jack Sawyer as the example. His recruiting class has never beat the team up north. Yeah. So to leave out of Ohio State and not have a victory against that team up north and to not win a national championship, you play, at that time, they felt what you said a month ago, we have to lay it all out on the line every game and put our best foot forward, be locked in to present who we believe we have always been, from the preseason with the hype, hey, $20 million roster, the best team that money can buy, and, however you want to market it. And we're not even we haven't spent the most money when you think of collectives and teams out there across the country. There are other teams who are somewhere close to $30 million on their roster. But at the end of the day, the focus to come together, I think it rallied those guys together. And then it also gave them a reason to fight to every week because they were always, we went into that Tennessee game. We weren't the favorite to win that game, right? No one knew who was going to show up. And they've been fighting weekly, proving that, hey, that we are supposed to be here. And they're writing their own legacy as the, 2024 Ohio State team. And people like Jack Sawyer, that senior class, JT, the Denzel Burks and those guys are writing their legacy right now in front of our eyes. And to win the national championship, it will quiet all the critics of Ryan Day and his coaching. It'll quiet the critics of the entire 2024 season because they did it by winning a national championship. And as you stated earlier, if you beat 6 of the top 5 teams in the country throughout the season, I mean, no one has ever done that. They would have their own legacy.
Last thing, and I'll let you go, Mike Doss, because here's the question JT and I get a lot. Yeah, but you didn't beat Michigan. Would you trade a national, losing to Michigan to win a national championship?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have to answer that. I personally don't have to answer that because I handle my business. So what would be different would be, a year from now or a few years from now, and Jack's all retired, and he goes down into the halfway Hall of Fame and whatnot, and we're sitting at the round table at the former captain's dinner or brunch or whatever it is, and we start talking about great teams, and then was like, yeah, the 2024 team, they won a national championship, and I'm gonna look right over to Jack and say, hey man,
yep,
I won a national championship too. Oh, did you beat that team up there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got them twice. So what about you? So that's just the bragging rights within each other. As Buckeye brotherhood. But I think from a collective, as we all know, you go to college to, play in big time games, to play in a big time atmosphere. There's no school bigger than Ohio State, as we've already seen it. I mean, you guys see the statistics. You know, the only school that has more collective value than us is the University of Texas, and we know that our athletic program is bar none, you know, number one in the world. Jack Sawyer and those guys win a national championship. He will have fulfilled his destiny and his dreams of coming to Columbus and being a national champion, and that's the most important part.
No doubt, and let's hope it happens 1 week from tonight against, as I like to call them, the Crying Irish of Notre Dame. Mike Doss, we always appreciate the time you make for us here on the Keny and JT show back in your home city of Canton. Thanks so much for insight on the new head coach at McKinley, Renzi Parnell, and your thoughts on the Buckeyes as well.
No, appreciate it, guys. Always a good time to talk to you guys. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited for both of my former programs. You know, Ohio State is in the national championship on Monday night. I'm excited, looking forward to that. I'll be going down to the game. And then, you know, my high school, Canton, McKinley, you know, they'll be in great hands with Renzi Parnell. As I would say to the community, you know, be patient, understand, you know, he's going to do it his way. And, you know, ultimately, it comes down to wins and losses and putting a good product on the field and impacting these young men and impacting our community there in Stark County for the better. And I'll be there to support both.
Sounds great, Mike. Thanks so much. Be well.
All right. And I want to say hello to all my family in Canton. My dad, I love you, my Uncle Larry. I love you, Uncle Steve. I love you. My auntie Denise. I love you guys. I'll see you guys soon. Stay warm and stay safe on the roads. Love you guys. Bye.
The ultimate champion, high school, college, the pros. Yeah. Nobody did it better than Mike Doss.